Good evening, everybody, and welcome to October's meeting of the Whole Beach Parish Council. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we continue. If the fire does break out or alarm sounds, our nearest exits are here and here, and if we can meet at the far side of the car park, which is clearly identified as the assembly point. During the meeting, please raise your hand to indicate that you would like to speak to debate an item. And the first 10 minutes of the meeting is dedicated to members of the public to ask any questions to full council. We may not be able to give you an immediate response, but we will aim to resolve the matter as quickly as possible. Now, looking at the participants here, welcome you all. Can I ask how many people are intending to speak this evening? 1, 2, Right, so we will start then with the first question. Who would like to start?
Mine's only a little one, Chairman.
Yes, please.
I notice on the agenda, item 99, it would be a question of going into private session with no public or press allowed. I take it that will be after items 100 and 101 and 102.
Yes, the closed session items are agreed, seconded and approved, and then they're held after all the remaining agenda items are approved. Thank you. Next question. Thank you.
As you might realise, I've been looking after veterans from our town and our county for 30 years. What is disappointing me the most is our local council is not having a parade in our town this year. For me, it is an insult of my 30 years of work for our town. In that 30 years, I've had the privilege for our town to be recognised all over the world. I've actually laid wreaths with the boys from the First World War at the Manning Gates. And one of my veterans had the privilege to do the honours to do a speech on that night. I've been to Arnhem at Oosterbeek to see 200 children looking after our graves of our fallen soldiers, the Parish. This I've done with pride. I've been to the American Cemetery at Omaha for 30 years, where I've been recognised by the White House for what I've achieved. And yet we cannot have a parade in our local town. On the beaches of Harromanchus in Normandy and the Americans at Omaha, on D-Day alone, they lost 6,500 men that left our county and our country to fight for us. And in Harromanchus alone, on D-Day, we lost 3,600 of our young lads from Lincolnshire and beyond our counties. This to me is an embarrassment for what I've achieved. And in Normandy alone, in 12 weeks of fighting, those boys left our shores of England from America, Australia, New Zealand, Canada to fight for our country. This morning at 8 o'clock, I had a veteran ring from Australia that's seen on their website and said how disgusting it was that I could not come to our town with our young lads and our last veterans. In my 30 years, I've lost over 3,500 veterans. I've lost 4 veterans in the last 3 months that I was proud to serve. In the 3 months of D-Day, from our beaches that they parted from to go to Normandy, we lost 26,000 young men. To me, it is a disgrace that we cannot walk through our town with our last few veterans. I know from experience, in the next few months, or even a year, we will have no veterans left, because I've lost all my veterans over the years. And I think it's a shame on the final days of our veterans in our county of Lincolnshire that we haven't got the guts to let our veterans walk through our town on their final day. As I stand here tonight, I was at Scapa Flow a few weeks ago for our town and our people that has lost their brothers in our town. I was upset when I saw the ages of those young boys. 250 went down at 16, 17, 18 years old. I was that taken back with it that when I came home, I commissioned a sculpture to be sent from our town today to Scapa Flow. So it will be put up there on the Remembrance Day. So I say to our councillors, I am disgusted and amazed that you could not find the time or the effort for my soldiers that get their lives for this country, and especially our local boys. We lost 16,500 out of our county alone in Normandy. This is what you should be proud of, and you should honour their memories, which I have done for 30 years. So for me personally, that I'm an ordinary person that's tried its damnness to bring our county to the knowledge of our people from around the world. I have actually been awarded from the White House of America a gold medallion of the White House. That's what they think about me. I've been in Normandy on D-Day so many times, and one year I sat there with my veterans, and a gentleman come aside on me and said, "What are you doing here?" I said, "I'm here to represent Old Beach and our county of Lincolnshire." He asked me all about what I did and what I've done in the years. He got up and shook my hand, and that was Prince William. In my lifetime I've met the Queen, I've met so many people that thank me, but our county cannot put a parade on for our young lads and our veterans at the end of their day. On June the 5th, I went to Normandy on the 75th anniversary with our children from our county, 60 of them. They laid 16,500 roses on our young boys' graves. One young boy was that keen to go, he couldn't get out of our coach, so he got his mother to bring him. He walked up to a grave with a rose in his hand. He put it on the grave, he stepped back 3 paces and saluted that grave. That's what it meant to our young children. And I had the privilege to do this, that you will see tonight. 16,500 roses on our boys' graves. And I had the privilege to go out to sea in my landing craft with a veteran that was here on D-Day to lay 12,500 roses on the sea for his mates that didn't make it to shore. And he told me when he went on D-Day the 7th, he saw all his mates floating in the harbour, face down, that got shot the day before. This is what Remembrance is all about to me, and it should be for our council, and our county, and our country. I'll leave you with one thought, that I'm disgusted with our town and our county for letting you get away with it. Words do not express the way I feel tonight. If they did, I'd be chucked out of this place, because I think it's a shame and disgrace what you've done for our town. And as long as I live, I shan't forgive you. Thank you. And I will add this to it. Before Remembrance Sunday, I'm putting £5,000 of new gates upon my memorial garden to remember the sacrifice that those young boys gave. Thank you.
And can we make a donation to your fund's plan?
Sorry, I'm leaving the next.
Right, we're just coming up to the end of our 10-minute forum. Is there anybody else that would like to make a quick comment before?
I'd like to.
Yes, okay, thank you.
On behalf of the Royal British Legion, we are having a parade this year. It's a static parade. That's because of the constraints that have been put around us. The act of remembrance is to remember all service personnel that have lost their lives, that have been hurt, that have been injured. And not just our veterans and our heroes, but anybody that's been affected by an act of terrorism, or as a result of an act of terrorism, for example, the Manchester bombing. We're there to remember all those people as well. Thank you.
Okay, we're just going to just break for a couple of minutes just to wait for Rachel to come back and join us, and then we'll go into a normal meeting.
Yes, it's Elizabeth Davis Chapman, DAVIDS-Chapman. Thank you.
Right, thank you everybody. We will just continue along. So I'm going to now instate standing orders and commence with our first agenda item, 2021-2-86, which is apologies for absence and reasons given, please.
Councillors Dan Taylor and Carol Kenyon, both reasons are acceptable. Can I have a proposer and a second, please? Does everybody agree?
All in favour? Even any voting?
We have one absentee, John Spencer, Councillor John Spencer.
Okay, thank you. So moving on to item number 87 is the clerk's report.
So 87A for the vacancy on Town Ward following the resignation of Councillor Sam Richardson. We are waiting, we're in the period waiting for South Holland to inform us if we can co-opt. And for 87B, we have one vacancy for Herne Ward, one for Drove Ward and two for Town Ward, if anybody's interested. The Deputy Clerk is absent, so there is unfortunately no update for C. For the correspondence received, we had, or somebody's attended the Welcome Back funding meeting, and council will be updated in due course. We've received the paperwork for the go-ahead of the adoption for the post box by the church, so that's good. And we have received a letter from Sir John Hayes, our MP, in response to the Remembrance Day. And his response is in the package that of the papers that have been prepared here. And that's it from me.
Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 88, declarations of interest. This is to receive any declarations of interest in accordance with the requirements of the Localism Act 2011 and to consider any requests for dispensations in respect of pecuniary or non-pecuniary interests in agenda items. And I would just like to note a non-pecuniary interest, please, in 2021-292. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to do non-pecuniary in 92A. Thank you.
Is there any other declarations of interest from members? Okay, do not worry, if we get to an item and you need to just let us know. Thank you. So, agenda item number 89 is the minutes of the previous meeting. To agree the notes of the meeting of the 13th of September 2021 as minutes. Do we have a proposer for those minutes? Thank you, Rick. A seconder? Peter? All those in favour? Okay, that's carried. Thank you. Right, I'll have to leave you for a moment. Sorry. You knew that a switch could be so loud. So that, folks, has to be done. There we go, we can. Okay, so moving on to number agenda item 90, it's police, county and district matters. Police.
Report. There's been 2 incidents of drug taking in Park Road Cemetery. The police have been informed and they think they know who the culprit is. And there is a police air freshener campaign which members have had the details of, but basically it's the police are giving out free air fresheners to go in your car, and they're urging drivers to belt up, hang up, ease up. And it features a red outline to represent the stop sign and the 3 icons representing each theme along with the slogan, and they can be available from your local police station and also local PSCOs have them.
Okay, a good incentive there from the police. Items B or C is county and district. Do we have a reporting from no reporting there? And we have no representative from district?
No, she
left. Did you want to minute your district? Yeah, thank you. So question for district can be minuted, please.
Yeah, so I just have one question that maybe we could write or ask our local district councillors. Recently a decision was taken by District Council to enter into a contract as part of the Welcome Back funding, and it's part of the town centre improvement plans for Spalding and Holbeach. And given I'm a member of the steering group for that, and I was not aware of it, and neither has Parish Council been made aware of quite a significant contract really. It's £15,000 for 3 years for a local data company to provide footfall counters for Spalding and Holbeach. Now, given the Welcome Back funding is meant to be encouraging people back to the town centres, and we have had similar data gathered before, and in terms of the public outlook, nothing really has been done with said data. Just wondering what their intention is to use this in the future and how they feel it's actually going to benefit the community. Because it is quite a significant chunk of the £86,000 we've been given as a district.
Okay, good question. Let's get that over to district and see what their responses on that one. Okay, so agenda item 91 is highway matters and A is road closures.
Right, so we've got dropped curb installation in Cross Street between Albert Street and Church Walk on the 1st of November. And then we've got road closure orders between 15th of November and the 18th of November. And that's all in Roman Bank, but at various locations. And then Holbeach Drove, I'm going to say this right, Langary Gate, surface dressing, and Holbeach St Mark's surface dressing. But those works are between the 1st of November and the 17th of January next year. And the High Street here between the B1168 and a point 5 metres west of Albert Street on the 14th of November in the afternoon. That's it for the road.
Thank you. Okay, agenda item 92 is the Open Spaces Committee, and we welcome the report from the chairman, Rachel, if you're happy to.
I'm sorry about that, bit of a wall.
No, you're absolutely fine. So your item, your report, please.
Yes, thank you. And obviously this is from our Open Spaces meeting. So I'd like to begin with welcoming our new groundskeeper, and we look forward to him working with us and any new ideas he has or working practices. It's always nice to have somebody new and see what they can give us. The Carter's Park, the sirens have stopped working, and it's decided to leave them as it has been reviewed it's going to be reviewed in our next meeting to see if we do require them or not. Councillor Isabel Hutchinson has met with an inclusive play equipment company, and we'll come back to the committee as soon as the report is ready. We have been alerted to a disease tree within the dog run and now organising for its removal. Cemeteries, a list of all will be made of all the benches and the locations. A winter plan of action for the maintenance of Park Road Cemetery is beginning now. There has been antisocial behaviour within the cemetery, which the clerk touched upon. So hopefully we'll not have any more of that. Someone has repaired the roadway at Dobbs Road to the allotment, so thank you to whoever it is, because we don't know who's done it. And there also has been reports of rubbish being dumped at our Battlefield allotment, and a notice will be going out to each of the allotment holders with their invoices. So we can address that problem as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. So item A is to agree to instruct the Parks team not to use the land adjacent to Battlefield allotments.
I propose it.
Yeah. Second. Thank you, everyone. All those in favour? So that's carried. B is to... Oh, sorry.
Mr Chairman, can I ask whether the rubbish that's been left at Battlefield is going to be cleared? They took down a building or something and they cleared the asbestos but left the rubbish.
The rubbish which has been left. Sorry, Stephen, do you want me to?
No, sorry, Rachel, you can.
Yeah, that was the wood left behind from the structure, purely because it was going to cost even more for them to remove the wood as well, and we just basically wanted them to remove the asbestos. So the wood we will be dealing with ourselves within due course.
Is that okay, Evelyn? You okay with that?
Yeah.
Thank you. B is to agree to allow a local historian continued access to our burial and cemetery records. Do we have a proposer and a seconder? We're both there, side by side. Thank you. All those in favour? Yeah, it's crucial that relationship continues. Thank you. That's carried. C, to discuss the parking restrictions down Park Road. Now, I believe this was an agenda item from Dan brought up a couple of meetings ago, and we deferred it because Dan wasn't here.
I think I know what Dan was referring to. It's the exit from Carter's Park, adjacent to the opposite entrance to the cemetery. People are parking there and they're dropping children off, and it's very dangerous for anybody crossing the road at school pick-up and drop-off times. And Dan's idea was to see if we could get South Holland to put yellow lines down there, restricted parking at certain times of the day.
I think I remember this coming up because obviously I was lucky enough to be educated down at the good old George Farmer, and for over a day, then roads have been the same way, same as Albert Street everywhere else. Is this something that we feel we need to address?
Yes.
The gates are obviously put in there, and you know, they're quite open, so you can see what's behind them. But is that?
I think, as well as that, I think we need to ask whether it is possible of having some form of formalised crossing there, either a zebra crossing or something. Because then if you had zigzag lines either side, it would stop people parking right up to the junction, which is another issue. And the children do cross over at some very strange places, right on the junctions, etc. If there's a proper crossing point, I think that it would alleviate some of the problems. It won't get rid of them all, but I think that they need to look at putting some form of zebra crossing, I would think, in that area.
I think it's quite right, because when you look down the high street, people ignore the parking restrictions all over town, and is that going to change by Lobby District and highways
I
restrictions?
think the problem is also the fact that cars coming out of Edinburgh Walk, if there's cars parked opposite that junction, restricts the flow of traffic as well. But I have got another point to bring up about parking, but that's not Park Road.
Yeah, okay. So the agenda item is to discuss the parking restrictions down Park Road. So we obviously have a discussion to be had, which means that we need to then start engaging. And where does this actually fall under?
If we could contact highways and ask whether they can liaise with us as to a sensible solution to the issues that we're getting down there.
And is it rightfully placed under open spaces? Should it be?
Not really.
Not really.
It should be on highways.
So, Jan, can I raise and get the ball rolling? Thank you. Moving on to item number.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Mr. Chairman,
If you can make sure your hands go up, then I can see them. Sorry.
I'd like to bring to the council's attention the fact that we've got double yellow lines along the high street, but the two takeaways just past the wine bar frequently have cars parked outside there. They're taking orders to deliver to houses. And the other day I went past and there was no less than 7 vehicles parked outside those two takeaways on double yellow lines.
Can I just reply to Evelyn before I go to that? This was brought up when we discussed in last month's meeting a planning application, and it was talked about at that point. But again, it's not on our agenda to talk about tonight, so it really needs put down as an agenda item for the next meeting, and then we can then discuss the parking on the high street too. So,
I thought I was going to say I've got some issues with parking, so can we bring it up as an agenda item?
so can we? So we're running ahead of the agenda now, but thank you at that point. Okay, so moving on to 93, it's Planning, Properties, Emergency Planning and the Speedy Committee, and report from Chairman Eddie McNally, please.
Very long title, that, isn't it?
You deserve it.
The report from our last meeting was that we discussed some planning issues. Again, it's the checkers that comes up every time, and I've had several complaints from businesses and local residents around the checkers, especially the small road that leads on to Park Road. Complaining, I just happen to have an office there, so they find me very easily. Complaining about it non-stop. The only issue we've got there is the complaint, or which I've got here from the fire service, that said that any emergency vehicles can't do any turning there, etc., etc. However, I know that they've made an amendment to the plan now where they put fire suppression units in all the 3 properties. So I think they've answered that really, possibly. But us as a council, I still think our objections are valid, because I don't want to be the one that says when a baby's burning in one of the houses and the fire service can't get to them, I don't want that my conscience. And I'm sure no one's doing. So we're not going to withdraw the recommendation that we've put in the complaint or the comments. I think we should carry on. And I say to everybody, please complain to South Holland. We've made our feelings known. So everybody that rings me, which I had a long conversation with a business owner today who owns quite a lump of land around there, who is frothing, to be fair. So that was it really, but that was the only thing that was contentious on there. We spoke about it before, so all we can do now, I think, is being heard in a couple of weeks. Just hope for the best, they do the right thing. That's really it. I mean, we have otherwise from Peter, I'd like Peter just do a quick talk, and then Isabel, if possibly can, about properties and speeding. Just a very quick one, because it's not agenda on here, but it's just part of the report.
Okay. Peter.
Yep, just a quick update on traffic-related matters. The speed sign has been deployed recently on both Station Road and Spalding Road. Data collected for LCC should they require it. Recent TRO requests have gone to LCC, but due to resource constraints haven't been scheduled as yet. I'll talk about that. The replacement chevron signs at Hobby St John are finally going back in at Broomgate Corner, nearly a year after they were taken out by a series of road traffic incidents. So the parishioners down there are quite happy. And I met with Councillor Tracy Carter earlier this week to discuss traffic and speeding issues at the parish, and agreed to meet more regularly to widen the agenda, because obviously she has a portfolio of changes as well, to make sure that we're not, doubling up on things and things don't get missed. And some more good news, LCC have appointed a new local highways manager for South Lincolnshire, a chap called Dan. He lives at Quadring, so he's quite local, so his accessibility is enhanced on our patch. And we're soon a meeting with him to raise the profiles of requests within the parish.
Thank you, Peter.
I have very little to report, other than that there is a room that is going to become vacant at Coomberrow. We are in talks with a couple of people that may be interested in it, and should we manage to get that let prior to the end of the lease, then we will release the person from their lease early.
Makes sense. Does that conclude your report?
Yes, that's it. I'm done. Thank you very much, Elizabeth and Peter.
Thank you. So item A is to agree the planning application responses.
Just make one point. We can't actually comment on our planning application, so we need to not comment on. Remove that completely.
For the windows at Coomberrow.
That's not too.
I think our planning
You've
app.
all got a non-pecuniary interest.
Yeah. So,
So that is planning application H090867 21.
Excuse me, we can't agree on anyway, because they haven't been discussed yet at the meeting, have they?
Well,
PPES.
we're supposed to be discussed tonight, so that we've got the 2-week.
Oh dear.
Oh, right. Okay, so with the preparation of the meeting, I suppose, yes, we could go through the list and talk about them. There's already been a flag that obviously our own planning applications on there. And I do believe there's one on there that I would need to put an interest on.
I think, obviously all councillors have seen them, and unless it's a particularly contentious one, I would suggest that with,
No comment.
with just no comment. Yeah.
Is there any contentious one idea on that? You wanna, no?
I would say the top one might be to some people.
Five detached
No,
dwellings.
it's very small, sorry.
Is it the 5 detached dwellings?
Yes.
Okay, so are we in agreement that we're not making any comments on these applications then? Do we have a proposal for that from the seconder? Sam? Eddie? All those in favour? Okay. Item B is to agree to move the management of all buildings, bricks and mortar into the planning, properties, emergency planning and speeding committee. So we're moving all bricks and mortar under the properties umbrella, I believe. Is what we're asking. Do we have a proposer? Right, seconder.
Why are you so keen, Rachel?
I'll second that one then. All those in favour? Yeah, it's carried. Okay, and C is to discuss and agree grants for defibrillators.
Sorry, this one, Jan just put on me, so.
Is it Sam? Are you
Sam.
wanting to say?
As chosen, we have said that we would quite happily buy a defibrillator to put into the telephone box, and we will sort its upkeep, etc.
So the item is to discuss and agree grants. So we obviously haven't got any grants to discuss.
Well, do you want us to give you the money? that's the way we see it. Would you like us to put that in there?
That's not fair. So
We've got the draft contract, haven't we, through from BT now for the telephone box.
yeah.
The only thing I don't know whether we need to do we need to get planning permission in order for change of use, because it is listed.
There is a section there that says about changing it to and
There
making
is,
sure
yeah.
the electric supply.
Yeah.
I think the item that we're discussing here is to agree the grants and defibrillators, and I think that when people donate these into the community, they are a wonderful thing. The idea of the grant for it, we're going to need to know the costings, and then Chosen can approach them, and then you can mark your interest in the agendaed item, so we can't agree that on the floor tonight.
Talking about defibrillators, I'll just put it out there that the one in Harwich Bank is now up and running at the school. It's been installed last week.
Thank you for that. So the item is to agree, to discuss which we're doing, and I think that that would be the way forward, as opposed to being able to agree the grant we can't. We need you to come up with figures and as chosen and propose it.
I'll get Lisa to write the proposal and that's how it
Okay,
is.
Helen.
When the post office decommissioned the phone box, the problem with the electricity, now some defibrillators need mains electricity, so would we contact the post office to keep that power supply for the defibrillator?
It's a good question, Evelyn. There is a section in the lease, and it says about the two different types of defibrillators and they need a different current,
Yeah.
and it's actually covered in there. So it's something that we would have to work with, because there will be a change of.
The reason why I asked is because the phone box has got electrical power at the moment,
Yeah.
but when they decommission it, they will possibly take the power away when we could be using it for the defibrillator.
You're right, and in that lease, I think that lease wasn't put on the team drive. You've got to have a look through that. There's a whole section about that.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so item D is to agree to instruct the contractor with the lowest quote and the shortest timescale to go ahead with the repairs to the cemetery chapel roof, subject to the government tender process, which I think we can now defer back to properties. Sorry.
Yes, obviously we had a discussion at Open Spaces about the roof, and we looked into potentially getting it covered for the winter and then starting the work in the spring. We've then had confirmation back from the Conservation Officer, from the District Council, which we've been waiting for, as to what we needed to do, and we basically can go ahead with what we plan to do without having the permissions in place. So we are now ready to go. So we have put it out onto the government tender process website, so it's out there, and I believe Jan is meeting with the contractor tomorrow. And once we've got all the figures in, then we will be looking to instruct somebody that can start work ASAP.
We've got to protect that. So it says here to agree to instruct the contractor with the lowest quote and the shortest time scale to go ahead with repairs to the cemetery chapel's roof, subject to the government tender process, which is what's just been explained to us. Do we have a proposer and a seconder? Thank you, Peter. Sophie, all those in favour? Okay. That's carried. Right, item number 94 is PR and IT committee.
I can hear voices,
Yeah,
sorry.
no, I thought I heard somebody ahead me.
Behind us.
Yeah.
I thought it was out there, yeah.
I think it's outside in the car park.
Okay, sorry. What's going to happen?
We're in an open session. Okay, so item 8 is to elect a chairman of PR and IT. And that's following the resignation of Sam, and we'll wish him all the best. Do we have any nominations, Peter? I think Peter would be brilliant.
I think it was,
I'll propose.
I'll second.
Yes, you're out.
All those in favour? There you go, Peter, well done. B is to co-opt any interested members onto the committee. This is, of course, is a bit of space there. Anybody fancy a dabble in PR and IT?
I think it makes it, I'm already on it.
So who is on the committee at the moment?
You.
Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else want to jump on at this stage? Don't all jump on. No? Okay. And item C was the Youth Council, which was, Sam did update us with regards to taking that forward. We've kept it on the agenda because I think it's quite important, and I think what we should do is just simply defer that for you as a new group to look into, and hopefully then come back to us next month with an update on instigating the Youth Council. He gave us some great tips and some information on the team drive about it. Are you happy with that?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay, thanks. Okay, so 95 is the Events Committee, and the report from Chairman Councillor Isabel Hutchinson, please.
Okay, the Events Committee are going to be running a Halloween duck trail in the shop windows during half term. We have now got all the shops sorted out. We've had a huge response from the shops to both have a duck and also donate some sweets. The idea is that the children will have to go around and find the correct duck in the correct window, fill out a form or put it on a piece of paper, it doesn't really matter, bring it back to the council offices, and if they've got all of the answers correct, then they will get some treats. So as part of that, as some people will want to be doing this over a weekend, if any members are able to give a couple of hours on the Saturday of the 23rd and the 30th of October, if they can let me know please, and then we can sort out a rota, even if it's only a couple of hours or 3 hours that we're available at the offices, and then we can at least put that out to the public so that they know that there'll be somebody there to bring their forms to on those 2 days.
What dates?
The 23rd of October and the 30th.
Thank you.
And thank you, Evelyn, for doing the ducks because they look fantastic. And then the Remembrance Parade training for the Marshals is going to take place on the 25th of October. There are 2 sessions, one at 10 o'clock and one at 2 o'clock. And we have now arranged a date for next year's car show and a new venue because it's so popular last year. We need to make it a bigger event. So it's going to be on the 24th of July next year on the Sunday, and it will this time be at Holbeach Primary Academy on their playing field, and we will be starting to advertise that this coming week, and looking for all sorts of cars and motorbikes to attend the event. And the public meeting for the Jubilee that we had before this meeting, it was well attended. We had around about 20 people from various groups that attended. Just an idea session really, looking at what we have started to think about and what they can help provide. We'll now go away and start to put things together, and then hopefully potentially have another public meeting after Christmas just to update people as to where we are.
Okay. So you covered item A. Item B is to co-opt any interested members onto the events committee. Is there anybody on there that would like to hop on? Peter? Okay, do we have a proposer and a seconder? All those in favour? There you go, Peter. Thank you very much. Anybody else want to have a go in the events?
I want to apologise, I would, but I am absolutely
Yeah.
finding it at the moment.
Yeah. In a month or two's time?
Yeah.
You never know. So there you have a new member.
Thank you.
96 is the Finance Committee and the report, please, from Chairman Councillor Stevens.
So this monthly meeting was agreed in addition to the normal monthly tasks to carry out assets taken in the future, and we've also approved a process to authorise full council approved payments on Barclays Bank. Working as a team enabled the finance to all work towards the same goal. I'd like to thank everybody. With a huge lot of work done from Jan, she managed to set up an account on the government website for tendering, so now any future large projects in excess of 10 grand will have to go out to tender for the foreseeable future. That's it.
Very well, thank you. Thank you, Rick. Okay, so item A is to agree the October payment list. Has everyone seen those on the team drive? Do we have a proposer and a seconder? Got Rachel and Peter, and all those in favour? Okay, that item's carried. Item B is to agree the bank reconciliation. Again, document on the team drive. Everybody seen it? Yep. Do we have a proposer and a seconder? Rick? Sam? All those in favour? That's carried. C is budgets update.
So we're working on budgets. Unfortunately, we haven't got a definitive answer yet. We're hoping by the next November meeting to have all the figures in. We're just waiting for some stuff to come in from Isabel for the Pavilion, which is going on, but that will be coming out of this year's funding anyway.
Yeah.
But come November, we'll be able to table something with the council for what we want to be spending next year, possibly.
It's great to have an item of budgeting so early on in the year. I feel that we're really getting our heads around the fact of planning ahead, planning for the future. So well done everybody, keep working with Rick on your budgets. Great work. Item D is to agree to give permission to the RFO to audit the accounts of a local charity in her own time for no fee. Well, that's very good. I will propose that we accept that. Anybody second?
It's not going to be a conflict of interest or anything along the way? No?
I can't see.
No, that's fine.
No, I would have thought if there was, there would have been you would have done one of those things that we've all done. If there was a conflict, you would have declaration of interest.
Am I at liberty to say who it is?
No, you don't have to.
No, you don't have to. Because if you've not declared an interest, then there's no clash.
It's not relevant to the agenda.
So I proposed it, someone seconded it. Yeah, Sophie, all those in favour? Thank you. Okay, so item number 97 is to agree to grant a parishioner of Holby St John's permission to erect appropriate flags at appropriate times at the War Memorial in Holby St John's, subject to the necessary insurance and risk assessments being in place. Whew. I think we're trying to give it the longest sentence ever to say. Straightforward, so we're going to be granting this parishioner permission. Do we have a proposer and a seconder? Peter, Rachel, all those in favour? Item carried. 98, to agree to cover the cost of the Millennium Light and Committee insurance. We spoke about this last meeting, about trying to assist them with regards to the lighting facilities for Christmas. So do we have a proposer and a seconder to agree to cover the cost of the Millennium Lighting Committee insurance? Rick, thank you. Isabel, second. All those in favour? Item carried. Okay. Item 99, HR, Health and Safety in the Data Protection Committee, and a report by Chairman Sophie Hutchinson. We resolve to exclude the press and public under the Public Bodies Admission to Meetings Act 1960 due to the confidential nature of the business to be transacted. Do we have a proposer and a seconder for the report to go into closed session? Rachel, Rick, all those in favour? That's carried. Okay, and item 8 is an update on the Pavilion works.
Okay, so obviously we discussed pavilion works before. They need to be done for health and safety and things to get it up to standard. We've gone out for quotations for all the electrical work, which is going to be the next agenda item. And we have been getting work done for opening up the two sides so you can go through and access both sides from one area, so it makes access a lot easier, and also rerouting pipe work, etc. So that's been done. We have been speaking to our parks team about additional things that we need, and there is a list in the team drive of bits and pieces like some PPE, some cosh cupboards, etc. that we just need to buy to make sure everything is being stored correctly, signage and that sort of thing. So obviously we have already agreed that we'd be purchasing these things because they are essential for health and safety, so we'll just be working our way through the list and getting that all sorted.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I understand that some years ago they discovered that there was asbestos in the pavilion, and that's why they weren't able to use the changing area because of that. Has the council had a asbestos report, and if so, can we see it?
Good question. Isabel?
There has been no asbestos report, and I'm not aware that there's ever been any report of any asbestos being in there. We were told that there was potentially paint that had got asbestos in, but we have that checked and it wasn't.
It needs to be checked.
So it has been checked, and it hasn't got asbestos in it. So as far as we are aware, we have got it in our budgeting to do all of our areas with asbestos reports that we need to do. But they have been using the pavilion for a very long time. So if you're now telling us that we already knew that there was asbestos in there, then they should never have been using it.
I believe the asbestos was found above the changing room and the shower area.
That was the suspected asbestos in the paintwork. It was believed that it could be the old Artex where it used to have asbestos in, and it is not. It's layers and layers of paint, and it's just flaking away. So it looked like it had blue flecks in it, but it is just layers of different paint over and over again.
I still think the council should get it checked out, and we should see a complete report.
Can I just say something?
Sorry, yeah.
I looked at the guidelines on asbestos ceilings, etc., and the recommendation from the government is to not disturb it, just cover it with a coat of plaster and leave it alone.
Yeah.
The plaster going over the top of it will hold anything that could potentially be in there into a much safer environment than it is now.
As a precautionary measure, because we were led to believe that it was asbestos in the paintwork, but then when it's been checked it isn't. but we are boarding up the ceilings. So like Rick said, the best thing to do is to leave it undisturbed, so it will be boarded up and you won't have access
If
to it.
there is asbestos found, even if it's in a coat of painting, it has to be recorded that there is asbestos and whereabouts it is,
Yeah.
and that is by law. It has to be recorded.
Can I ask Evelyn, if you've known about this for some time, why it's not been flagged up before?
I was actually going to say, because you was talking,
Sorry.
not through me, which you should be, but how do you know this information, Evelyn?
Sorry?
How do you know this information? That obviously was,
Previous records
which records have you got?
from some years back when there was talk of working on the pavilion, and they've discovered that there was the asbestos, and that's why the work didn't go ahead.
Okay, so I'm asking you a question. How did you get this information and why has it not been shared?
As I say, from previous records.
Which previous
Can't
records?
remember the date, but it was a good few years ago, and that's why nothing was ever done with the pavilion.
So are these through old minutes you've seen online?
I can find it out and report it back to you.
Yeah, because it's quite crucial. If there's information that obviously could have assisted properties, but you've been, the explanations here like this Artex, you know, it's quite a common compound in old Artex back in the 80s.
Oh, yeah.
The idea is we're sharing is caring, you know, we should
I
work
guess
together.
for the protection of the council, and I know from my previous working experience, I have to have hold a record of any asbestos in any buildings, and it had to be, it could be inspected at any time by a safety officer that you've got that record of asbestos in any of your buildings.
I think the council demonstrated on how hard they treat asbestos discovery, especially with the allotments that's been treated. So the information is quite critical. The team here have explained that they're going to encapsulate and board over an area that was confirmed that there was no asbestos trace there. So obviously your request was that it should be noted, so therefore if we can note that in the minutes. And then if we can just double check our facts. And maybe retrieve the original minutes that Evelyn's referring to. That obviously should have been brought to the table a while ago. Thank you. Okay, so item B was to agree the quotations for works to the pavilion.
Does that have to go into closed session because we are discussing contract or something?
Okay.
Before it's agreed.
We've already to take into closed session.
Yeah, well, that was the
Then you have a report, but not the,
Oh, sorry.
item B,
Yeah,
sorry.
so item B, as we're going to be discussing some sensitive data covered under GDPR, we need to then put item B into closed session to resolve and exclude the press and public under the Public Bodies Administration to Meetings Act 1960 due to the confidential nature of the business to be transacted. Do we have a proposal for item B to move into closed session? Isabel, seconder, Rachel, all those in favour? Carried. And we then move on to 100, which is agenda item requests, which is a couple there that we picked up through the meeting. Crossing, Park Road and Evelyn's High
Parking on
Street.
the High Street.
Yeah, High Street. Any other agenda items at the moment? Obviously, Jan will pre-warn you when they need to be in, from your committee meetings, etc. Okay, thank you. 101 is to agree the meeting dates for 2022 as follows.
I'm not spending Valentine's Day with you.
What? Okay, so do I need to run through these? 17th of the 1st, 14th of the 2nd, 14th of the 3rd, 11th of the 4th, 9th of the 5th, 13th of the 6th, 11th of the 7th, 8th of the 8th, 12th of the 9th, 10th of the 10th, 14th of the 11th, and the 12th of the 12th, 2022. think I got them all in. Did was that 12? Okay, do we have a proposal and a second for those dates so far? Peter, Evelyn, all those in favour? You stuck with me, Rachel? Happy Valentine's. And item 102 is to confirm the date and venue of the next Parish Council meeting. So to agree the next Parish Council meeting date of the 8th of November 2021 at 1900 hours at the Methodist Hall, Albert Street. And the public open meeting to discuss floor displays will be held at 5 p.m. Do you have a proposer and a seconder? Rick? Evelyn, all those in favour? Okay, agreed. Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. If you could lead through whichever, oh, this may exit door, do one shot, I think.
Thank you very much for the work then.
Thank you very much.